Hi everyone. Welcome to the Imprint 2025 virtual reception. My name is Katie Wynn. I'm the Deputy Director of Operations and Public Engagement at the Wharton Esherick Museum. We are thrilled to have you all with us. We're so so impressed by the submissions and the work this year once again. And before we get into all of the wonderful things that Maria Franny has pulled together for the reception, I'll just do a quick housekeeping to say that if you wouldn't mind keeping yourself on mute until it's time for conversation or to speak, then that would be great. You're welcome to put thoughts in the chat as we go along, and we always review those at the end of the program. But with that, I'll turn it over to you, Maria.
All right, thank you, Katie. So good afternoon, everyone. Again, welcome to Imprint 2025. This is our 17th annual high school printmaking competition and exhibition at the Wharton Esherick Museum. This year, we had about 139 submissions from 21 schools in the area. So that's got to be like at least close to a record, or maybe a recent record. We were really impressed with that. You chose to interpret our theme of renewal in such diverse and interesting ways, and it gave me a lot of a challenge in terms of finding ways to connect that to what Wharton did. So that was really interesting and really exciting for me. Just to reiterate what Katie was saying, again, please, if you have any questions, comments, please throw them in the chat. And keep yourself muted until you're invited to unmute yourself. I promise you won't have to listen to me talk for a whole hour, but we can stay as long as you want at the end to chat. So I want to, before I get into Wharton's work, I want to just take a moment to kind of spotlight the students this year and their amazing work and their amazing talent, their family, the community, administrators, everyone who kind of showed support, and especially teachers. I'm a little biased because I've worked in the classroom, but I know that I can certainly be exhausted by 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And we had teachers submitting work on your behalf at like 11:55 at night on the day of the due date. So thank you, teachers, and thank you all for being here. I also want to thank our guest jurors, Katie Wynn, who you just heard from, our Deputy Director of Operations and Public Engagement, and practicing artist herself. And Judith Thomas, who is Deputy Director at the Brandywine Workshop and Archives. Thank you both so much for lending me your artistic expertise. It was really fun. So what I want to do today is, again, we're going to take a look at just a few of Wharton's prints. He did about 400 or so in total. So we're going to look at a limited selection of them that kind of maybe speak to how he felt renewal and how he sought renewal. I want to hear from our jurors, Judith and Katie. And then we're going to look at this year's winners, and we're going to show you how you can see the whole show online if you haven't already. So when choosing, again, as I mentioned, when choosing Esherick prints to share with you this year, I was really inspired by your interpretation of renewal, which we realized was a very kind of broad and very challenging theme, and you really rose to the occasion. I was one of the things that I was inspired by was the personal stories that you told us. And it kind of made me think of this quote of Wharton's. He once said something along the lines of, if you want to know me, look at my work, look at my art. That's how I communicate with you. That's how I show you who I am. And he really shared a lot of himself in his work. And I think the work itself probably renewed him. So he was born into a wealthy Philadelphia family, and he loved nature. He loved being outside, and I think he was really renewed by his surroundings. He was an avid sailor. His honeymoon was a 3-week sailing excursion with his new bride, Letty. He kept an amazing little like illustrated journal of their honeymoon, which is really fun. There's actually a blog post on our website that Katie wrote called Late Summer Honeymoon Cruise that talks about that. So if you're interested in some further reading, that's a really fun one. Um, so the photo that I chose here on the right um, dates to about 1905. It's Wharton with his brothers, and they're sailing in the Barnegat Bay in New Jersey. And I'll touch on that a little bit more in just a second. Um, we have another blog post written by our director, Julie, that kind of covers a lot of Wharton's sailing background and the nautical elements that he puts in his studio, even in his home. So sailing itself, I think, was probably maybe another form of renewal for Wharton, but certainly being with his family as well. He's, one of 7 children. He's a twin. So that was another kind of trend that we pulled from your submissions this year. You told us a lot about family, and I'll mention that a little bit more in just a second as well. A lot of Wharton's prints come from, I would say, probably the early to mid 20s. Um, so this one, 1925, that's a really prolific year for him. Um, and this is when he really decides to pivot away from painting, which is where he started, and turn his attention to wood specifically. And again, the Jersey Shore was an important place for him. And I like to think of it as a place where, again, he probably found a certain amount of personal renewal and, being in nature again. So many fun details in this map here. We have the lighthouse on the right there. There's a whale just offshore on the top left. Um, the sun itself is marked day starts here. That kind of reminded me of, natural cycles of renewal, the beginning of a new day, which is another thing that you kind of um, thought about a little bit with your submissions. There's an annotated version of this map where he wrote about memories. Again, he kind of kept a little journal of a trip that he took with a friend of his, the writer Theodore Dreiser. So he wrote all these little notes on it, and one was walked the beach wondering when the sea will break down the lighthouse as it has done to other houses and the lightkeeper's home, which lies at the foot of the great column of pile of stone and brick and twisted pipe. So that sort of reminded me again of these like natural cycles of renewal, of destruction and decay, and then regrowth, which again, you explored in your prints as well. Again, you also told us a lot about your families and how you find renewal through um, traditions and culture and spending time with your families. And of course, Wharton was no different. His kids, especially his 2 daughters, Mary and Ruth, were very frequent muses in his work. We see them reflected in a lot of the work Wharton did. But just as a kind of sample here, I thought I would touch briefly on his wife, Letitia Nofer Esherick, or Letty. Letty was kind of a fellow free spirit. She was a fiber artist. She was a dancer, among other things. On the left here, I have a photo of the whole family at that time, around 1917. The baby that you see is their oldest daughter, Mary. One thing that I always say when I give tours at the Esherick Museum is that the Eshericks, especially Wharton, were all very resourceful, and they came up with very interesting, creative ways to keep maybe income, coming in through or in between larger projects. So one of the ways that Letty contributed to the family income was by growing peonies. Every spring for what seems like a very brief amount of time, you can see the descendants of Letty's peonies blooming outside the studio, and it's a really beautiful time to be there. So Letty would grow the peonies and sell them off to local colleges during graduation season every year. So in the interest of family and family tradition and togetherness, I wanted to include a 1924 wood engraving that's sort of like an advertisement that Wharton did to kind of support that effort too. You have like your menu of options here. On kind of a more personal note, I wanted to show you Letty's book plate. Now, if you're like me and you weren't quite sure what a book plate was, it's almost like a label that goes inside of a book. Like we have stamps now that might say like from the library of and your name. Book plate was kind of similar to that. This is, of course, a woodcut print. Um, he he is working with literal renewal, right? He often kind of recycles and repurposes things. So the print that you see in the middle is actually taken from illustration work that he did on a book of children's poetry called Rhymes of Early Jungle Folk. And the border was kind of added later as a dedication to his wife Letty after their daughter Ruth was born. So what you see in the middle is Letty kind of cradling Ruth. The piece is not dated, but I believe Ruth was born around 1922. So I would guess maybe somewhere in that vicinity. So it's kind of two separate prints. The border was made to kind of fit the original block inside it. So again, he was resourceful and always kind of thinking creatively. You told us a lot of stories about your faith this year and how that renews you. Um, so that kind of made me think of some of the illustration work that Wharton does. Here we have a 1927 print. It's called Song of Solomon. Or I'm sorry, Solomon Had a Vineyard. And it comes from an illustrated work called Song of Solomon that Wharton would have done for a little publishing house that was in Philadelphia at that time called the Centaur Press. The original Song of Solomon, if you're not familiar, dates back thousands of years. It's a book of poems that were attributed to King Solomon, and it kind of focuses on love, love between God and humanity. A lot of your stories were about uh, travel, about nature, and that's really, if you've ever been to the Wharton Esherick Museum, you know that's a big one for him, and he captures his surroundings in a lot of his work. Especially the natural world, and I think he really feels renewed by nature, by what's around him. Even the way he uses lines, he uses kind of soft curving lines, like what you see in nature, rather than more kind of rigid geometric figures. You know, it's everything kind of flows a little bit. Um, so kind of tying those two together, tying traveling and venturing out into the natural world, we have Alabama Magnolia from 1929. It's a wood engraving. It's part of a series of prints that Esherick did, capturing the trees in Alabama. If you've ever been down south, they have it's very beautiful plant life and much different than what we have up here in Pennsylvania. Um, so he would have traveled between Alabama and Pennsylvania, originally with his wife, who was learning kind of a new means of teaching down there. She was going to teach to help kind of make some extra income. He went back at least once and worked on ceramic garden sculptures with a potter down there. So there's also the idea of collaboration, right? And he makes he's just, again, he's always active. He's very prolific, and he makes this great series of trees from down south. Just a couple more natural images from Wharton. Again, he's a lot of the work that you see, a lot of the images in his prints come from his surroundings, come from what's around him. He's kind of inspired by, you know, what he sees, of course. So here we have Two Friends on the left, which is a print from 1923. And then on the right, we have Moonlight and Meadows from 1932. So again, he uh, this was kind of his life, right? Like he built his studio in purposely because he chose a location specifically because it was surrounded by nature and it was peaceful. He built the studio thinking about ways to kind of make the building itself flow with nature. So that kind of oneness, I think, with the natural world is going to represent renewal for him, and an inspiration, and new ways of thinking and new ways of making art as well. All right, so that's all I had for you in terms of Wharton's prints. I wanted to invite our guest jurors, Judith and Katie, to say a few words. So Judith, if you wanted to start us off.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Judith Thomas. As Katie mentioned, I'm with the Brandywine Workshop and Archives, which is a print studio in Philadelphia down on South Broad Street. And it was founded in the early 70s. And I'll pop in the chat a link for any of you who might be interested in looking at some of the works in the collection. I'm also associated with the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts, where Wharton Esherick actually studied. And there is also a wonderful, print collection at PAFA in the permanent collection. And there's also a dedicated print organization there, the Brodsky Center at PAFA. But first of all, I just want to thank all of you, especially Maria and Katie, for inviting me to participate in what has been just an absolutely wonderful collaboration. And I feel so fortunate to have been exposed to the just incredible and wonderful printmaking that is going on in all of the area high schools. I hope that you all, feel proud of your submissions to this competition because the depth of technique and just personal emotion that comes through in the work is really very, very beautiful. And, so a great congratulations to all of the students who submitted work, and a huge thank you to all of the teachers. It's, as we all know, the arts are the first to be attacked whenever there are cuts. And it is so heartwarming to just know that you are all carrying on this great work. And as I say, I feel very, very fortunate to have, played a little part in this. So thank you and congratulations.
Thank you so much, Judith. We were so lucky to have you with us this year. Katie, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, thanks. So well, as I said at the beginning, I'm Katie Nguyen. I'm the deputy director at the museum. Well, first, I will thank you, Maria, because you put so much effort into managing this program and making all the connections with all of the teachers, finding jurors, all these wonderful things. You do so much work for it, and it's such a pleasure to be a part of. So well done, Maria. It really is. So this is, I forget now, maybe my 8th year working at the museum, somewhere around there. And I've always been able to have some amount of a foot in the Imprint program, and it really is just it just blows me away every year to see the caliber of the work that the students submit. It's really, as Judith was saying, there's so many other pressures and things that can enter into the school system, and it's just incredible what everybody is able to do. I think this year especially, it was really exceptional, the interpretations of the theme and the skill and all of the different aspects that came into the process. So a huge thank you. I'll just echo that as the others have. A huge thank you to all of the teachers, all of the students who were involved. And I would also just like just to put it out there that we really, as a museum, we really want to be a resource to all of you in your classrooms. So I know some of you are teachers that have put us in your calendar and you're submitting to us every year, and we love that. And others submitted for the first time, and that's incredible. And we just welcome your feedback. We welcome your thoughts. We know that there's so many different ways that classrooms get pushed one way or the other and have different resources and different opportunities to connect with museums. So we invite you to reach out to us. If there's things that you think could serve you better, ways that we could connect with you in your classroom, like, we want to be there. So we invite that. And otherwise, just thank you again for submitting.
Thank you, Katie. Yes, I agree. We're very eager to be a part of your classrooms and to be a part of like all the wonderful things that you're working on. So yeah, if there's anything that we can do to be a better partner to you, we would certainly be interested. Okay, so now I want to take you through this year's winners and show you the show. If we have anyone who is named in here with us today, I'll be kind of pausing for a moment and inviting you to say a few words if you'd like. No pressure. If you don't want to, don't unmute yourself. I'll move right along, I promise. So we have Kieran Udiono, excuse me if I'm mispronouncing that, from Julia R. Masterman. Karen won our Viewer's Choice Award this year. Every year we post all our submissions on Facebook and we ask you to go in and vote by liking individual photos. So the one kind of with the most likes wins, and this particular piece kind of won in a landslide. So congratulations to you. If you're here, Karen, would you like to say a few words about your work? Okay, well, I was particularly struck by this piece, the idea of nature kind of coming into this constructed environment, right? Is very much it reminded me of something Wharton probably would have been thinking of, how to kind of more seamlessly blend the transition between the outside and the inside. We had so many amazing submissions this year that we actually had a tie for honorable mention. So the first one is Kelly Johnson from Delaware County Christian School. In her statement, Kelly talked about renewal as through the means of reuse of resources. So she notes that this beautiful piece that you see here is printed on recycled fabric. And kind of reminds me of how resourceful Esherick was. He kind of used anything that he could get his hands on to make art. So well done to you, Kelly. If you're here and you'd like to say a few words, I'll leave you a moment.
Yeah, I can speak for Kelly. This is Liz Coates. I'm actually her art teacher.
Hi.
So Kelly is not here with us because actually my students are over at the Congressional Art Competition at the same time. Happened to land on the same date, same time. Sorry about that. But Kelly was pretty excited for this, and it's her second attempt at printmaking. And she kind of took off on the tapestry end of things. And so our school is really big on reusing materials. So as she mentioned, that's all fabric that they find that's being tossed out, and our hope is to kind of reduce our footprint on this earth.
I love that. Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. Kind of turning, I don't want to say trash, but turning something that was, discarded into treasure, Esherick, if you've been to the studio, if you're familiar with Esherick at all, we always tell this kind of funny story about Esherick coming into maybe about 800 hammer handles and using them to make like 45 beautiful chairs. And I always say to my tour groups, I don't know about you, but I would think that's probably pretty useless to me, but he sees potential in it. So that's kind of what this work reminds me of. Our other honorable mention is Cleansing by Nicole Robertson from Abington Senior High School. So in her statement, Nicole talks about the kind of literal and metaphorical cleansing powers of water. And she obviously makes this beautiful image with it. Nicole, if you're here, would you like to say anything else about your work? Okay. So our third place winner this year is Springtime Reconnection by Abby Heinrich. And in Abby's statement, she talks about a very kind of fitting for this time of year, right? The renewal of springtime, the rebirth of life in the natural world. I don't know about you all, but I'm not a fan of winter, so I kind of have that seasonal affected a little bit. I think I do not like being cold, so there's also this sense of, I feel like, personal renewal when the weather gets warmer, and it kind of feels like a fresh start a bit. So thank you so much for this beautiful piece. And if you're here and you'd like to say something, I'll give you a second.
I'm David Farrow, Abby's art teacher, and she couldn't be here today, but she wanted me to say hi to everyone. And uh, I just wanted to say Abby is an incredibly prolific art student and was working on this simultaneously with like 3 or 4 other projects. So she started it earlier in the year, and because it fit this theme perfectly, we decided to submit it. So thanks for having Abby.
Great. Well, thank you so much to both of you. Yeah, the ability of, with everything else on their plates, the ability of these students to make this caliber of work is truly amazing. Our second place winner is Ashlyn Heron of Archbishop Ryan High School, excuse me, for her piece Starfish. And she explains in her statement that the starfish can regenerate its own limbs when they're lost. So it can literally renew its own body, which I didn't know. And we thought that made a really kind of beautiful tie-in to the theme of renewal, in addition to being executed so well, of course. So Ashlyn, if you're here, if you'd like to say a few words.
I'm her teacher, but she's not here.
Okay.
We have a fundraiser at the school, and she's participating in that.
Okay. Thank you for being here.
Sure. This was, I think, Ashlyn's first experience with printmaking. This is the first time I've entered anything in this contest. It's a great contest, but I just not that experienced with printmaking, and my classes tend to be very large, which makes it more difficult. But this year I had a small group, and I thought I'd experiment with them. And I think she wanted to keep it pretty simple. I noticed a lot of the other images are very complex and gorgeous, but she just wanted to get the technique down for the most part. So she enjoyed it. She focused mostly on texture and a simpler image.
That's great. Yeah, we definitely really responded to that, and how beautifully it was executed, for sure. Well, yeah, thank you and welcome to Imprint. We're so glad you're here. All right, the grand finale, our first place winner is Dinner Time by Madeline Dannenfelser, excuse me if I if I mispronounced that, who is also a student at Abington Senior High School. So Madeline talks about, again, those natural cycles of renewal in nature, kind of the food cycle is what we see here, executed in a very beautiful, graceful way. I understand that Madeline might have a few words to say. So Madeline, if you're here.
Oh, hi. So, yeah, this was my first time printmaking, and I had a lot of fun. And I really like the theme of renewal because I think like a lot of people when they think of renewal, they think of like the circle of life. Um, because like old life is used to sustain a new life. Um, my linocut shows the circle of life by showing scavenging birds eating the fish. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Congratulations. Well done. We were so excited to have your work and the work of everyone who submitted this year. I know I say it every year, but the jurors really did have their work cut out for them. So again, thank you so much, everyone, for participating. If you're interested in seeing the whole show, I have it open in my other tab here. You can go to our website, wharton-esherickmuseum.org. Under programs and exhibitions, you just hit Imprint 2025. And there you can see all the finalists. So we've got the winners, and then we've got the finalists underneath them. All right. So that is all I had for you today. Again, thank you all so much for coming. Thank you for helping to keep Imprint going for almost 20 years now. We're so happy to have you in our community. Does anyone have any questions, any comments, anything like that they'd like to share now? You can unmute yourself, or you can throw it in the chat.
It's always a great show, and thank you for giving the kids an opportunity to show their work at such a wonderful museum. It means a lot, so thank you.
It's certainly our pleasure. So, and we thank you all for working with us and for participating.
Yeah, I'll just chime in maybe one last time just to say that it's so incredible to hear how many, like, this is, oh, my first time printmaking. It's like, oh my gosh, what
I
are
was
the
thinking
future
the
prints
same
gonna look
thing,
like?
Katie.
It's
Almost
really,
everybody said like, oh, I've never done printmaking before. And then
yeah,
you
just
come
give
out
it a
with this.
try. So the future looks bright.
Yes, it does.
Just based on those comments.
It does.
And I also just thought, because I'm not sure if I actually said it earlier, I just wanted to thank Judith Thomas again for her involvement, because I think it really, I mean, just such a pleasure to work with, Judith. You really were just a wonderful person to be meeting with and to be reviewing things with, but also just offered such expertise and I think a really wonderful balance of the different approaches to printmaking and what could make something really successful, whether it was, you know, really this rigorous graphic woodcut approach, or whether it was something that had more sort of breadth and spontaneity to it. So I think it really, you brought something really wonderful to this year's show. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
My pleasure. And, you know, just so you all know, given the organizations I'm connected with and giving Maria and Katie's connections, obviously, to Wharton Esherick, you know, we're already plotting as to how we can, you know, really highlight the great work that's been done in the schools and whether we can come up with different collaborations, you know, to expand on the fantastic work that Wharton Esherick have been doing these many years. So, you know, just thank you again.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you again, Judith. And yeah, definitely stay tuned. There's lots of exciting things in the works. So again, thank you all so much for coming today. And if you don't have any other questions or anything you'd like to share, we can part ways. You're welcome to unmute yourself and say a goodbye, as was our tradition. But again, thank you, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day and a really successful week ahead.